Have you ever thought to yourself, okay, I really want to buy a house, but I'm going to wait a few years until the interest rate comes down? This video is going to be just for you because we're talking about what is the cost of waiting to buy a home. Now, before we dive in, let's just set some of the record straight. My personal philosophy is to invest in real estate as a plan for retirement, to hold on to that real estate and eventually pay it off and use rental income for retirement. So I am very aware that there are arguments out there that you shouldn't buy, that buying isn't for everyone. And I agree with some of those. I don't agree with all of them. But this video specifically is for people who have thought about buying and want to wait for external factors to change in order to buy. We're going to go through some of the numbers about why or why not that may be beneficial to you. So if you're waiting for a reason like saving more down payment or you're not quite at a down payment, that's a different discussion. This today is all about if you're waiting to buy because of external factors around you and some of the myths around those and what I think that you should be thinking about as a buyer of a home. So if you've been thinking about for a while, maybe I'll just wait until next year to buy, you're not alone, trust me. Amongst interest rates going up and down, a lot of volatility, the economy right now, home prices, as well as not to mention the government shutdown, there's a lot of reasons not to buy, and there are a lot of reasons that buyers are currently feeling nervous. So you're definitely not alone. But here's the truth, that when you do wait, there is a hidden price tag to some things. And in this video, I'm gonna walk you through exactly what you could lose or save by delaying your home purchase for another year. So stick around because some of these numbers may actually surprise you after we get into them. And I'd love to hear from you. What's the biggest thing holding you back from buying right now? Put that in the comments below before we start the video. So as I alluded to before, there is an emotional side to buying, and there are some reasons that buying is not always the best step. And so as you're thinking about it, if you're still figuring out your next step, if you're thinking you're going to move really soon, then buying probably isn't the right decision to you. But there are a lot of emotional reasons to buy as well. Maybe you are trying to grow a family. Maybe you're settling down in a neighborhood that you see yourself in for the foreseeable future. Those can all be real reasons to buy. Maybe you want to have your parents move in with you, something like that. Those are all really valid reasons to buy. But there's also a subset of people who think that waiting is going to be the best option in order to buy, and that they're hoping for kind of this perfect or magic moment when they're going to be able to find the right home and everything will align, the economy, the interest rate, the price. That unfortunately doesn't really happen. And every single market around the country has trade-offs about what works and what doesn't work. We talk to our clients all the time, like not even every house is perfect. You're gonna find a house that probably is 80% great. It might not even be all great. And 20% are going to be trade-offs that you make. There is literally no perfect house, and that's just something you have to come to accept if you do choose to buy. I think it's the same thing if you're renting an apartment. There's probably no perfect apartment either. And so that's one thing that you have to be aware of as you go into this process. And honestly, a mindset that you have to have is that there's no magic or perfect moment. The first kind of data point that we need to talk about is home price appreciation. So generally speaking, over history, home prices always appreciate or go up. Now, there are fluctuations in the market. I'm not gonna say they always go up. This is something that you need to think about long-term. It's just like trading stocks. You wouldn't buy stock and then sell it tomorrow. Similar for real estate, you don't want to buy a house and then have to sell it the next year. You need to be thinking about a 5 to 10 year horizon of holding on to a property and even potentially renting it out if you want to be a landlord. I know there are a lot of arguments for not being a landlord. I don't think it's as difficult as everyone makes it out to be, especially those people, influencers who have never actually done it. And there are management companies that can help you with that. So you do need to think about appreciation. Let's take, for example, just a $700,000 house, which is pretty typical in the Seattle area. Even if this appreciated 3% per year, that's $21,000 that you're missing in appreciation. Now, it's not cash in your pocket, but it is the value of your asset if you were to sell it, within 1 year, you're missing $21,000. So if you think about that over 2 years or 3 years, you're almost up to $60,000 lost in appreciation. And remember, real estate is a compounding game. You do need to wait, and the benefits compound over time. So it's really important to think about that. I actually pulled some data for Seattle specifically, no other parameters, just the average sales price in Seattle over the past 3 years. So in this first graph, you can see there are ups and downs. There's a lot of fluctuation within the market within even 1 year. You see the peak and the valley. So typically the peak in this is anywhere around March, April, May, June. The prices peak for the year, and then they come back down towards December and January. And you see this pattern repeat over and over. Now, 2022, there was a big peak around the middle of the year, right before the interest rate went up, and then it went all the way back down. Home prices went down because the interest rate went up and the market kind of stalled. This is a really important graph to see because you can see that over time, the average sales price is appreciating upwards. That's the point here, is that over time it appreciates upwards. So if you're waiting to buy, you are missing out on that appreciation. Now, that doesn't go without saying that when you do sell a home, there's a cost to sell. So you need to recoup enough appreciation in your home to cover those costs when you're selling, because when you're buying, you're not paying some of those costs out of pocket, like excise tax, the real estate commission, those sorts of things. And then there's this bar graph that shows you the increase in appreciation per year over the past 3 years. This is for a rolling 12 months in September, because that's the month we just came out of. So you see from 2023 to 2024, average sales prices in Seattle appreciated 5.3%, and then average prices from 2024 to 2025 increased 2.9%. Again, this is in September. It's not the peak of the market every year, but it gives you an idea. So on average, what are we looking at? About 4% per year in Seattle. I think the national average is about 3% per year. So this is really important to take into account as you're thinking about what you're missing out on. You are missing out on this price appreciation and equity in your home. Okay, now let's talk about interest rates and monthly interest. So this one trips up a lot of people because they feel like it's safer to wait until the interest rate drops in order to purchase. But if you wait and rates stay the same, your home that went from $700,000 is now probably priced at $721,000 if it's appreciating 3% per year. So that's a difference that you're gonna have to pay for if you're waiting. And then the rate that's changing, that's gonna show up in your monthly payment in a different way. So we've actually got a breakdown of what that looks like. So let's just look at that. We actually have a breakdown, a very conservative breakdown of what that looks like. Let's talk about the full monthly payment. This includes principal, interest, taxes, and homeowners insurance, as well as mortgage insurance, because we're assuming you put 10% down. So when you don't put 20% down, you have to have mortgage insurance. The total monthly payment for the rate of a $700,000 purchase with 10% down is $5,500 per month. Now, if you went down to a 5.875% rate, everything else equal, that monthly payment is $5,433. Literally, there's only a difference of less than $70 per month between these payments for waiting. And part of the reason is because the appreciation goes up as well. So you're assuming that the appreciation, so the home started at $700,000 now, in 1 year, let's assume an even more conservative appreciation, 2% appreciation. So in a year, it's worth $714,000. Your monthly payment between that 6.25% and 5.87% is $67 difference, or about $804 per year. So if you think about that, you're basically paying $804 per year more, but the benefit of buying now is that you have equity in the property and that the property price is at $700, not $714. So you're getting about $9,196 in return on equity based on buying now versus waiting 1 year. So again, kind of to summarize this, if you wait for the interest rate right now, which is 6.25%, and you wait for it to drop to 5.87%, which is a very popular thing that people think you should do, your monthly payment only goes down by $67 per month, or $804 per year, but you're actually losing out on the equity, assuming that a $700,000 house now is worth $714, 2% equity in 1 year. So you're losing out on $9,196 when you think about the appreciation gain and how much it's going to cost you. So while $9,000 may not seem like a ton compared to $700,000, think about that over 2 or 3 years. That's now we're at $30,000 or even more, because if that's appreciating by 2% per year, you're at $732,000 over 3 years. So you're actually missing out on $32,000 in equity only for a slightly lower payment per month. So this whole chart breaks down for you all of those different payments from waiting 1 year. Again, that's assuming a 10% down payment on a purchase of $700,000. When you combine the house appreciation, which we talked about number 1, and the interest rate, really you're not saving a ton of money by waiting. Again, if all other factors are good for you and now's the right time. So overall, we're talking about lost equity and lost wealth building. One of the biggest hidden costs of waiting is the equity in your property. We've talked about this. When you own, every mortgage payment is building your wealth. But when you rent, that money is going to your landlord. So you're not really saving that money or putting it away. Now, some might argue you'll save money by renting versus owning. That's a whole different concept and a whole different idea versus waiting to buy if you're already planning to buy. So that $700,000 house is now worth $714, maybe worth $721, because those prices do continue to go up. And so by waiting, you're starting from zero again next year, and you need to save more to save for that down payment that's gonna start going up again. So the whole point of this video is to highlight these two things: equity and the cost of waiting for the mortgage rates to drop. If buying isn't the right move for you right now, that's okay. But these are two really important factors to consider if you're thinking about buying in a year or two and you're waiting for these external factors. Full honesty, sometimes waiting is the right approach. If buying now would put you in financial stress, or if you don't have the savings, or maybe you have an uncertain job situation right now, waiting can give you stability. So I'm not arguing against that whatsoever. But waiting out of fear for getting the perfect house or getting the perfect mortgage rate, that's where you can really lose big in this situation. So the key is to make a strategic choice, to make a choice that works for you and your lifestyle right now, that benefits you, and you have to be honest with yourself about when that's going to happen. So what's the real cost of waiting? Potentially thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars in appreciation, higher monthly payments if rates shift and you lose equity you'll never get back. Not to mention, rates could go higher. They're not always going to start going lower, and who knows in the future if rates will be higher than they are today. But if you're feeling stuck, let's talk about your options. Every buyer's situation is different, and I'd be more than happy to sit down with you and talk about your options and how to make a strategic choice that fits what you need in your life right now. Buying is not always the right option. Selling is not always the right option. We talk about this every day. It has to be strategic and the right option for you at this time. Drop a comment below if you're planning to buy or sell in 2026, and if it would be helpful to you to talk through your strategy of how you're going to buy or sell in 2026, text or email us, and let's set up a consultation to talk through exactly what you need and the strategy that would fit for you. It's completely free to you, and we'd love to meet you and help you. That's all you need to know about the cost of waiting to buy. If you found this video helpful, I'd love if you'd like and comment below, and then don't forget to hit subscribe, because I try to bring you helpful content about real estate so that you can learn and make the right decision for you. And I'd love for you to follow along on the journey. Thanks again. We'll see you again next time.